Shalom, everybody. So, do Jews really control the banks? Today we're going to talk about the Rothschild family and their financial reputation. So stay with me, this will surprise you. Now would be a good time to subscribe, give us thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any more of my videos. So, the Rothschild family is considered the symbol of Jewish aristocracy by some and the epitome of Jewish greed and financial monopoly by others. Where's the truth? What do we really know about that European Jewish family? What do we know about the Rothschilds and the world's financial takeover? Well, going back in history, Mayer Hamschel Rothschild, a descendant of Jewish merchants from the Frankfurt ghetto, was born in 1744 and became an orphan at age 12 with 4 siblings to take care of and almost no money to help. He had no choice but to go to work very young. He eventually became the apprentice to banker Jacob Wolf Oppenheimer in Hanover and returned to Frankfurt in 1736 to become the 1763, not 36, to become the personal financial dealer to Crown Prince Wilhelm I. He started to amass his fortune as the French Revolution started in 1789 and it turned into war in Europe. And it allowed him to quickly become the richest Jewish man in Europe. Or we should say the richest man in Europe who also happened to be Jewish. That is a more accurate description. That's the way to think about it. Well, eventually, he would delegate some of his banking business to each of his 5 sons across Europe. Germany, England, France, Italy, I believe, and there's one more place. The birth of a myth and its growth is the next thing I want to talk about. How was the myth of the greedy Rothschild monopoly and how did it grow? The family business quickly grew to become the greatest banking institution in Europe. That they did become. That is true. This undoubtedly gave the Rothschild family some power, especially at a time in history when the Haskalah, the word for Jewish enlightenment, was starting to become a reality for Jews. It also gave them the financial power to lend money to the various nations that had opposed France and been affected by all the wars fought by Napoleon. So the Rothschild name became synonymous with wealth and philanthropy, but it also became the symbol of modern Jewish capitalism. So much so, check this out. I found this fascinating. So much so that you all know Fiddler on the Roof. Well, Shalom Aleichen's original Yiddish text for Tevye the Dairyman, Tevye's song "If I Were a Rich Man," it actually read "Wenn ich bin Rothschild," if I were Rothschild. That's the original words in the song. Back then, it was not seen in a negative way. Not quite as it is today. What was seen as shrewdness and immense wealth by some eventually, it was also seen as greed and corruption by jealous others, and it quickly gave anti-Semites on both sides of the political spectrum more ammunition to accuse all the Jews of the world, as if by proxy, to try to take over and control the world banking system. The Rothschilds were also accused of financing both sides of some conflicts during many of the European wars. And the fact was that they became so spread out within Europe that there was barely any country at that time that they had not loaned money to. So by virtue of their financial spread, they ended up at times being on both sides of conflicts, which made it very, very odd and awkward. In the early 1880s, cartoons and literature started to emerge, painting the family as money-hungry, greedy, and fat, designing them as all kinds of weird animals like monkeys and dogs. Play on words started to appear such as, "Not the king of Jews, but the Jew of the kings," close quote. In 1845, a cartoon called General Pump meaning the General Pump, was German for General Pump, was published and became the catalyst for a myriad of cartoons after that. It depicted Mayor Amschel Rothschild as a mean-looking gold dispenser to world bankers, at the same time taking advantage of the little people. Even in French literature, French author Honoré de Balzac's caricature of Jacob Rothschild in his short story, and I quote, La Maison Nucingen, which is the title of the book, 1837, would become the root of the myth of the greedy French Jew that endures today. The character lived actually through several of Balzac's books. To be sure, the original myth of the greedy Jew started well before that. In 1873, the German economy experienced some difficulties, and the drop in the stock market was blamed on Jewish bankers, when in reality, few Jewish people were involved. The myth of the greedy Jew, which was started during the Middle Ages, took at least a half a millennium to take root in the fertile European soil. And with the Rothschilds, it's almost that it came to its apex in the eyes of the anti-Semites, of course. At that point in history, all financial crises were seen as part of a Jewish web with the Rothschild family at its center. Words were even being spread across Europe that Nathan Rothschild benefited greatly from Napoleon's defeat in Belgium at the Battle of Waterloo. The fake story was told in Ignatius Balla's The Romance of Rothschilds in 1913. And actually, beyond that, Henry Ford, we know Ford to be a blatant anti-Semite. You've heard me speak on that earlier. Henry Ford's anti-Semitic newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, that he was publishing for a while, and his 1920 four-volume book, The International Jew, would further promote the conspiracy theory about the Rothschild taking over the banking financial world. In Volume 2, Henry Ford writes, and I quote, Rothschild power as it was once known has been so broadened by the entry of other banking families in governmental finance that it must now be known not by the name of one family of Jews, but by the name of the race. Thus it is spoken of as international Jewish finance, and its principal figures are described as international Jewish financiers. As a leading student of financial affairs puts it, the world of high finance is largely a Jewish world because of the Jewish financiers' absence from national or patriotic illusions. Close quote. Ford saw the Rothschild family, their financial leadership, as the epitome of the Jewish financial world. To Henry Ford, the Rothschild family symbolized Jewish banking control and thirst for wealth. Another milestone in Jewish history was connected to Rothschild family in England. Lionel Rothschild served on the Zionist Federation, and it was to this very Lord Rothschild that Lord Balfour addressed his short but powerful 1917 letter known as the Balfour Declaration, which was very instrumental in the process of the rebirth of Israel as a modern state for the Jewish people. The Rothschilds had less involvement in American finance than the conspiracy theories would like us to believe. They were somewhat involved in trying to rescue the economy after the 1929 U.S. stock exchange crash, but they weren't very successful at that. Nevertheless, their connection provided Adolf Hitler with more of the fuel he needed to go after the Jews. Now let's look at possible reasons for the conspiracy theories against the Rothschilds. This is a little odd, but Wilhelm Marr, the very man who coined the word Antisemitismus in 1879, had worked with a family close to the Rothschilds and had been turned down in 1841 for a promotion that was given to a less deserving Jew, according to him. In one of his memoirs, he recalled that, quote, the Goy had to bear the consequences of the economic crisis, close quote. A Goy is a non-Jew or a Gentile. It's a pejorative word that means nations in Hebrew, and it was used in a negative way in the way William Marr used it in his memoirs. In other words, the job was given to a Jew who deserved it less than him, but because he was Jewish, he got the job. That's a possibility. That's one small possibility that we don't want to dismiss it. People started to hate the Rothschild early on, but one of the major conspiracy theories was that it's just really so weird. The aftermath of the Battle of Waterloo in June of 1815, when Nathan Rothschild was said to have rushed to the coast of Belgium to cross the English Channel at a very high price and arrive in London a day before the news of Napoleon's defeat. The story goes on, claiming that the Rothschilds' profit from the Waterloo debacle was £135 million. Back then, it was a huge amount of money. The story was a hoax, as Nathan Rothschild was nowhere in the Waterloo region at the time. Then there is the story about Baron Edmond de Rothschild from France, who became a strong supporter and proponent of Zionism back in the late 1800s. Over the course of his life, he was called the known benefactor. Over the course of his life, the known benefactor and the Palestine, and I use the word Palestine as a piece of land, not as the modern politically charged word that has been hijacked by Yasser Arafat and his followers. So the word Palestine means the piece of land called that. It's just a piece of land. There's no Palestinian people. So the known benefactor and the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association, or PICA, founded in 1923, purchased a total of more than 125,000 acres in Palestine. He started investing in that area as early as 1882 and was instrumental in the building and developing of many wineries and hospitals and factories and businesses throughout the land. To develop the land. These massive land purchases gave credence to the anti-Semitic claims that Jews controlled the banks and wanted to control the world. You see some of this in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Now, also, as late as 2023, continuing to spread the conspiracy theories, the claim was made that the Rothschild family owned many of the world's central banks, when in reality, these banks are publicly owned. They're not owned by the Rothschild family. The family name Rothschild has become synonymous with all Jews active in the financial world. In a sense, all Jews and all Rothschilds have become mutually responsible for the claimed financial world takeover by the Jews. That's, of course, in the mind of the anti-Semites. This is a false generalization that is not founded in the history of the Rothschild family at all. Now, let me give you what I think is the truth about the Rothschild. It's actually not that complicated when you want to take the time to use common sense. Now, undoubtedly, the Rothschild family built a financial empire in Europe over several centuries. They became very influential with many kings and leaders in many countries, and even helped finance wars and recovery efforts. That did happen. At times, as I just mentioned earlier, they found themselves on both sides of a conflict, having to make choices about who to finance, and they didn't always make the best decisions. It had to be awkward. In the eyes of many, money buys powers, and large fortunes would buy great power in many different fields. They eventually, they made some poor decisions. That's true. I'm not taking that away. The Rothschilds were very rich and influential, and undoubtedly not squeaky clean in every decision they made, as I just mentioned. But when they used poor judgment or even greed, and this is what's very important. It's simple, but it's so critical. This is what you need to understand. When they made poor decisions, poor judgment, or even they were greedy, they happened to be fallen sinners in need of redemption first, and Jewish second. The irrational claim that their greed, their desire to control the banks and the world would be based on their Jewish roots or Jewish ethnic identity is no more valid than a claim that all Germans were Nazis or are Nazis and all Muslims are terrorists. This is ludicrous. The Bible sees us all as sinners, regardless of origins. And that is the root of the problem. Jewish identity has absolutely nothing to do with it. Now, mind you, Jewish people are shrewd and good in business, but it's just an aspect of who we are. This is not because we want to take over the world. Actually, a lot of Jewish people are donating a lot of money and helping make the world a better place. But that's for another day. Let me finish with a couple of scriptures which I think are painting a good picture of who we are as human base, Jews and non-Jews alike. Ecclesiastes 7:20. Indeed, there is not a righteous man on earth who continually does good and who never sins. That's pretty clear. Psalm 14, verse 1. The fool has said in his heart, there's no God. They are corrupt. They have committed abominable deeds. There is no one who does good. Close quote. Jeremiah 33:20. Indeed, the sons of Israel and the sons of Judah have been doing only evil in my sight. From their youth, for the sons of Israel have been only provoking me to anger by the work of their hands, declares the Lord. Close quote. And a famous one is Romans 3:23. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Not just the Jews, but the Gentiles. All. 1 John 3:8. The one who practices sin is of the devil, for the devil has sinned from the beginning. The Son of God appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. All these scriptures are clear that mankind is falling short of God's glory. All of us have sin in our life. All of us are responsible for poor judgment and mistakes. Not just the Jews. Even in the financial world, not just the Jews, and certainly not just the Rothschilds. So that's the truth about the Rothschild, about their family. And while they did gather great wealth, they never were and are not today responsible for any financial takeover. Antisemitism is always irrational. And the Rothschild conspiracy theory is just one more example showing us how Satan can turn people against the age-old scapegoats of humanity. But people deserve the truth. And I hope this will help you understand a little more about the conspiracy theory about the Rothschild family. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share with your friends. If you want to support us, you can go to shalomandmessiah.com. We appreciate your support. We need your support. And until next time, shalom and be blessed.